In the heat of the moment, precision and excellence are paramount. It's a creed we live by, both in service and beyond. Our beans are sourced from the finest regions, roasted with perfection, and packed with care. Whether you prefer whole beans or ground coffee, Operator Espresso delivers a cup that's unmatched. Whether you're sharing stories with fellow veterans or gearing up for a demanding day, Operator Espresso is there to fuel your mission. Operator Espresso is more than just coffee. It's a tribute to excellence. Join us in our mission. Experience the difference. Taste the honor.
All right. Hey, welcome, folks. Hope everybody had a fantastic Christmas. And it is 12/26/2024, and it's been about a week since we've been together. And so a lot of things have happened. We're going to look at airplanes that have been shot down over the Red Sea. We're going to look at this grand illusion of what is being presented to us by NASA, and we're going to pull the thread on a little bit of it. I think I have some answers for some of it, but I'm not 100%. And then, of course, man, things are popping off when you start talking about Russia and Ukraine and what old Flashbang is trying to do. And so buckle up. This is going to be your live SITREP, and we are coming to you from the Monkey Lounge in the great state of Texas. So let's get on with the deets as we look at the skies. Now, it is a little bit light today as we jump over here. It's sitting around 64, but of course I took out just a handful of trainers and some Cessnas that really don't matter too much to the grand scheme of things. But it is still kind of a holiday flex schedule, so it's not a lot going on in the skies. I did have one right here that I thought was interesting. This is, of course, your Doomsday plane. It's at 10,000 feet and descending, and it is 3 miles east-southeast of Belle Isle, Florida. So you've got the Doomsday plane, looks to be landing down there in Florida. And then, of course, we've got this balloon that's still parked out over Washington, D.C. area. And, yeah, we'll get into some of the deets around that. Now, one thing I will tell you, somebody had made the comment on one of the other channels out there that all of the nuke sniffer helo activity over Washington, D.C. was, in fact, due to the upcoming inauguration. Now, we are about 25 days out from that, so we are sub 30, and that is when I would expect to see it. But I will say this. There was a large amount of activity from the helicopter nuke sniffer, and then it just dropped off. So we haven't seen it since the 19th of December. So if it was indeed tied to the inauguration, we would see it continuing every single day more than likely, and that's just not the case. Now, we get a couple weeks out, you may see an uptick in that activity again, because that is truly a pretty big threat here in the United States, especially with this porous border. So the other thing, too, we're going to look at these border issues going on. I'm going to show you the flights by Omni over the last 7 days. Your mind is going to be blown as to how many people they're bringing into the United States. When I said that Flashbang was accelerating his devious activities, I'm going to show you exactly what I meant by that, okay? So let's do this. Just kind of looking at the skies here over the United States. You can see we do have a handful of border balloons down here on the south. We've got Omni up and about. Those are moving illegals rapidly through our country, as well as DOD stuff, okay? So they're tied to Air Transport International. It's like a conglomerate, all right? Swift Air has kind of fizzled out. They went bankrupt, but then Eastern Airlines has picked up some of their activity, so we are tracking them as well. But we'll just get the bottoms up number over Europe. And wow, look at the amount of Ruskies that are airborne right now. I don't think I've ever seen that amount of flights coming out of Moscow at any given time. Now, these are all tied to their military, so there looks to be a big scramble happening right now over this general area. That's interesting. Pay attention to that. We're going to talk more about what's going on over there, but that could actually be something that we need to watch right now, because that is, I have never seen this amount of aircraft airborne over Russia, over Moscow, ever, in all the time that I've been tracking them. So, in fact, let's just do this while we're looking at that. Let's just jump over here to the Ruski piece. And let me just show you what they've been up to the last 7 days, and you'll see them that out on the eastern flank. That's Alaska right here, and then this is their forward operating base, so to speak. Look at the flights. I mean, this is pretty right down on the China border, Russia-China border, very close to North Korea and Beijing. And then, of course, you can see around the horn here, as they're kind of going into Tel Aviv and over what looks to be Libya or near Libya. I can zoom in a little bit for you here and just notice that, it's just right up against the Iranian border, not into Iran, but right on the border. You can see some things going into UAE and Qatar. A little broken trace there into Africa, out of the Red Sea, or actually flew out of Saudi. Again, that's a Russian asset. And just goes to show you, the Saudis are in bed with a lot of people. They do not like Joe Biden. They do like Trump. So this will be interesting to see how this all pans out. And then you see there's one flight from Russia actually going into Canada. That's doesn't land, just broken trace, just disappears as it heads up northern Canada side of the house. So eyes on that one. All right. And let's kind of get into our stories of what's going on out there today in terms of the news. Now, big thing, let me get the right screen. Here we go. Let's first and foremost, let's talk about what's going on with Cuba. All right. What you see on the board here are about 2 weeks worth of flights in and out of Guantanamo Bay. I want to start paying attention to this because anytime Trump has been in office, there seems to be a big uptick in activity going on in and out of Gitmo. Now, the interesting piece to this is if you look at this is what we call the gray birds. All right. That's Phoenix Air or AKA Graybird. All right. Notice that these are the arrivals coming out of Cartersville. You've got them on the board here. You've got them twice coming onto the board, Wednesday to Monday. So just in a very short span. Omni is in and out of there. Okay. And then you've got a couple others that's Wheels Up private jets. Some of these, I know there are like animal rescues and things that go in and out of Gitmo. I don't know if that's it or not, but another one here, Rev Aviation. All right, these little BE-20s. There's another Wheels Up again. So that's probably just taking contractors in and out. Sun Country. The Wheels Up looks to be on a regular tempo. So that kind of goes in Tuesday, Friday is usually the tempo for that. United Airlines, same thing. Notice this one's coming out of Kingston, Jamaica and Orlando. Just some very strange flights. Then we go over to the departure board. And you'll start to see it is, again, where they're all heading out of there. So you've got Jacksonville Naval Air Station, back to Kingston, Jamaica, D.C., a handful of actually joint base in Washington, D.C. So now let's go look at the grays. Where are they tracking in terms of their flights over the last 7 days? I just showed you 2 weeks worth. Now, notice you got them in and out of Jacksonville. We talked about that. It goes up to D.C. from there. Then you've got some that kind of pop up to our northern border and then across. You can see them going in South Dakota and then into Spokane, Washington. Now, these are the importance of the grays. Notice where you don't see it. Guantanamo Bay. I just showed you on the board of Guantanamo Bay. They've flown in and out of there. They have just chosen not to show you those flights. They've wiped them, in fact, from our trace lines. So that's Guantanamo Bay. Let's move on to the other stuff, but pay attention to that. The grays, again, those are agency Ubers, so to speak. Okay, they carry them around quite a bit. All right, now we're talking about some of the darkness and the shenanigans that this fella is up to. And, first and foremost, this is an addition to the 1,400 or 1,500 people that he just released, one of which was actually held on charges in Plano, Texas. And I do believe it was a very long sentence, probably for the rest of his life. 47,000 images of child pornography. And he was, I think, a Chinese guy that got released. Some of that were images of some very disturbing stuff. I won't go into the details of that. But these are the type of scumbags that this scumbag has been releasing. Okay? Now he just took a list of 37 out of 40. Now, I don't know what the other three did that he couldn't commute their sentences for, but these are death row sentences. These are people that haven't been, where there's some question to whether or not they were guilty. These are straight up guilty people that murdered families, women and children included, that are sitting on death row for a good reason, and he just released them back into public. Let that sink in. That, to me, you're putting the American people at risk when you do that, okay? Treason. Let's just keep going. All right, China says U.S. is playing with fire after the latest military aid for Taiwan. Yeah, we're just pumping it in, and it's making China very mad. But look, again, more things that this creep has done as he's exiting our Oval Office. Saturday authorized the provision of up to $571 million of Defense Department material and services in the military, education and training for Taiwan. And separately, he also put in another $295 million in military sales that had been approved. So, yeah, there's that. Let's just keep going. U.S. sanctions Pakistan for developing ballistic missiles that can strike the United States. That's a little concerning. So Pakistan is considered one of the most dangerous and unstable countries in the world. And now they just basically upped on the list over Iran. All right. And so remember who basically helped them get their nukes. And that would be the United States. Always comes back to get us, doesn't it? And Iran's the same way. Okay, look at this. Nuclear power plants report massive uptick in drone sightings. Now, this, I'm going to show you some very interesting TFRs. And you can see this image here just talking about these drone flyovers. You know, they get close to these power plants. They just hit some critical infrastructure. You can cause cooling towers to go, on the fritz. There's a lot of different things they could do if they are detonated or, have any type of devices on them, okay? So you go over here to, wait, let me back that up before I get into it. Let me just show you what the drone activity has been doing. And then I'm going to show you, because the drone, I don't know if it's tied together or not, but you'll see, first and foremost, these are large drones that we're talking about here, like Q4s, Q9s. You can see it over Japan, very light, nothing down under. And then we get over here to Europe, and you can see pretty active over the last 7 days around Kaliningrad. It tells you there's a lot of activity going on there. Again, these are high-altitude U.S. military assets for the most part, all right? And you see these rolling out of Malta. You can see them snooping on Israel right off the coastline, snooping over there in Tunisia. And, just look at the amount of activity. We go zinging around Israel, not in and landing in Israel or anything. They're just basically collecting data, intel. And then, of course, over the Middle East, down there near Bahrain. And then you can see one transitioning out over from the left coast to the right coast, right? And some low altitude stuff near, actually coming out of what looks to be the Fort Hood area, headed over towards Louisiana. I don't know what that's all about, but there's that, okay? And you can see some low altitude stuff there over the DC area. Okay, now, we go back to the drone piece. Let me just show you all of the TFRs, security TFRs. Look at all of the security TFRs around Philly, up into Jersey, all around New York. Yeah, it's insane. Absolutely. I've never seen that. It's a lot. Okay. So just a data point for you. But then we get over here to this piece of news. This is where I find it pretty interesting, and that is the fact that Biden officials say we have no evidence that the drones are a threat to the public, but we really don't know what's going on. That is their MO. They don't really know what's going on with anything. They seem to be clueless at every single level, and it is a Festivus miracle, folks, that we have not been overrun in our country by our enemies. Well, it's probably still work in progress because that treats us or transitions us into this. Border czar, Daddy Warbucks, basically admits he could have blocked the migrant flood, right, but he just chose not to. Well, let me just show you. I've been mentioning the fact that it has been accelerating. So we get over here. Let me just show you what the Omni flights have been doing. Now, this, I do believe, are troops headed from Japan down to Malaysia in that general region. You get over here to Europe, you can see it is clearly a hub in and out of Ramstein. And notice it's all around the Baltic states. It's down into Europe. It's into the Middle East, pretty hot and heavy. Now, the one that I'm a little suspect of is this one right here. We could very well be putting troops into play there. It wouldn't surprise me because that is a pinch point into the Black Sea, which if you control that, you control the flow of goods to Russia, all right? But I have a feeling that's illegals that they've got Middle Easterners are taking out of that region, putting them into Ramstein and flying them into the United States. Now, this will make you sick. This is the U.S., by the way. if you can't see it because it's underneath all of these flight traces. But look at the amount of flights down into Central America, into the Caribbean. Look how thick the trace lines are. That is 7 days. I told you they are accelerating, bringing people into the United States. So, yeah, buckle up, because now these are just people we got to turn right back around and kick them back out of the country. But look at the stuff into Mexico, into Central America, and then look at the thick traces into Hawaii. And you got a couple little onesie-twosies that head out to the South Pacific. Then a bunch of stuff up to Alaska. I think they're moving illegals into Hawaii, personally. All right, now look at this. It's Global X. This is your other perpetrator. Again, this is treason, folks. They're bringing illegals, knowing they are illegals, into our country on behalf of our U.S. government. And you can see all the places they're flying them to. And this is Global X. They are just straight up. They're not flying any military guys. They're flying illegals in. Look at all the spots, the stops down into Central America, into South America, into the Caribbean, into Cuba. All right. So just let that, it's a data point for you, but just let that kind of resonate. All right. Again, he says he could have stopped it, but decided not to block it. All right. Again, treason. Okay. This is the latest atmospheric river coming into the United States. And again, as I kind of zoom in, you can see danger boxes off the eastern seaboard, a plethora of stuff around from TFR's security over nuclear sites, etc. Notice the one that's up here on the Buffalo, Canada border, or the New York, Canada border, sorry, near Buffalo. And then you've got this box, Pike East, military operations activated. That'll go red once it's actually a hot box. So, and then let me see if there's anything else catches my eye. We see it here. No boxes down off of Southern California. So we'll just kind of keep our eye on it and see if anything pops up here in the coming days. But yeah, I don't see anything else that really catches my eye. So let's move on. Okay, look at this. This is going to be RZE Poland, and I just want to give you a kind of a laydown. Notice it's very light in terms of traffic coming in, and I see one camera flight coming in from Doha. And where does it go out of there? It looks to be this one here, National Cargo, as it leaves. These others, I don't know who they are. Remember, this is also a civilian airport, and again, it's the forward operating line into Ukraine, so to speak. All right. All right, look at this. If you didn't see it, you probably did. Over the last 7 days, we've had actually 2 incidents. This was the one that actually hit an aircraft. A U.S. Super Hornet shot down over the Red Sea. Friendly fire, all right? But there was a second one that also almost got taken out. And that is just one of several incidents that we've had in terms of aircraft going down. So let's keep on going. Look at this. Dramatic video shows Azerbaijan Airlines passenger jet crash in Kazakhstan. I can never pronounce these stands. But this big takeaway is just showing you that there are, if you look at, this is shrapnel. So that tells you this was more than likely a missile defense system that what happens is they fly up next to the airplane. They don't hit the aircraft. They explode next to it. And then these pieces of shrapnel get into critical systems, engines, etc., and it causes the airplane to crash because they can't control it. Sometimes, the cabin gets compromised, etc. There are videos showing the airplane crash, and then there are videos from inside the airplane before it crashes, and you can see a lot of damage inside the fuselage, main structural seals that have been popped, and all kinds of stuff. So it was a very explosive hit right beside the aircraft, enough to cause it to crash, all right? And so I think there was a dozen people or so, maybe a little bit more, that actually died on this flight. But definitely looks to be hit by a missile defense system, all right? And then here is some of the images. So you can see that plane coming in. You can see the angle of attack as it starts to otter in. Doesn't look good. He tries to pull it up at the last minute, but clearly he's got some serious issues going on, and it splits into two. And not good. Pretty horrific. I would hate to be on a flight like that. Okay, and then here, Zelensky condemns Russian inhumane Christmas attack on the energy grid. So let's just take a look at what it was. But It says their Air Force shot down over 50 missiles. Now, of course, the Air Force is on ground. They're not flying, not as of yet. But this is just kind of gives you a lay of the land of what it was and what's been going on. These are the U.S. assets that are shooting down the stuff coming inbound. But it is, you can see it was quite busy. These are cruise missiles. Then you get out here and you can see all of the launches of bombers, et cetera, and fighters out of Russia, as this was Christmas Day, okay? Now, let's go over to the news for just 1 second, and I do want to show you, we'll get into the space piece, because what I want to give you is just kind of the latest on what Flashbang has said. He basically says that the overnight attack against Russia, I have directed the DOD to continue its surge of weapons deliveries to Ukraine. And we've been seeing that, and we've been talking about that quite a bit. But that is just confirmation that all of the mass amounts of flights we've been seeing going into Ukraine are indeed tied to a surge by the United States pushing equipment in for good old little man Zelensky. All right. And then, of course, just to stir the pot, right? Finland, Estonia power cable has been hit. Remember, it was a communications cable before. Now they hit the power cable. So Russia is continuing, and China, to mess around with the folks over there. This is making NATO quite angry, to say the least, all right? And all the countries around there. So, and then it just keeps escalating. Look at this. A hole found in a sunken Russian cargo ship. Basically, they said that this is an image of the ship sinking, but it was reported that they had 3 explosions that actually hit the side of the ship before it sank. And so, yeah, there you have it. Wild times, folks, wild times. All right, let me do this. I'm going to take you back over here. This is the premise of the show today, was really to talk about just some of the shenanigans that have been at play when it comes to NASA. All right. Now, you know, NASA was formed by a bunch of Germans. They came over Operation Paperclip, and that's how they stood up NASA, DARPA, and the CIA all at the same time. And the numbers were quite large. All right. And it continued on into the 90s before they actually stopped it. So there are people still coming behind all the folks that came in and probably died long ago. But look at this. Here is one image. Now, I will tell you, when I went to search this image, I couldn't find it on the internet. I was having a hard time actually getting it. So pay attention to it, because here's the $1 million question. All right. Who's holding the camera? Okay. Just going to float that out there. So that was the moon landing. All right. Now, there were other things, CBS News, but they showed a simulation. They declared it was a simulation. People have taken that out of context. I get it. But then how do you explain this one? Right? This right here. I mean, here you have the landscape. This is the exact same landscape. They're saying and claiming this is an image from Mars on the top, and then this is actually the real image from Algeria. And then, of course, they show other things, for example, where they have in Canada, I think it's Devon, Canada, where they actually have a moon rover base camp that is set up there that somebody found inside of Google to basically debunk that most of the images that they are portraying, it looks to be, from what I can see, some type of a training camp because of the modules that are there. So they're trying to set it up with a condition that would help people simulate going to Mars. So I didn't show that because that's kind of the premise behind it. All right. But this one above, they talk about this being Mars, and then they show this is actually Algeria. I don't think that's the first time they've done that. Now, here is the one that's gotten the latest controversy, and that has to do with the astronauts on the ISS. Keep in mind that 2 of these individuals were actually launched in June on a Boeing spacecraft that basically had some issues, so they transferred them into the ISS. It was supposed to be an 8-day mission, and then all of a sudden they show up on the ISS and they've got Santa Claus hats. Okay, now I did pull the thread on this piece, and maybe they have an out here. I think it's very suspect because we've seen a lot of other images and videos out there that would indicate that they're not all of this is real. Like some of it is done in a studio. But in this case, there was a cargo launch that came into play, 6,000 pounds. It was November 4th. Could they have put, hats and trees inside this, support flight that came in from Dragon X, I think it was, or one of the Dragon missions that's docked, okay? And it had 6,000 pounds of cargo. And so, could that be tied to this? Yes, it could be. But I just think that it is definitely suspect that all of a sudden people that were supposed to be only on an 8-day mission are now having images taken with Santa Claus hats on the ISS. It's just, too many things out there that are just really suspect these days. And, this one, again, could have been part of the cargo that came up to them for supplies November 4th. But, we'll see. Time will tell, won't it? All right. One more story for you. This one is not really a story. It's just an airline that we started to track. If you want to go out there and find it, you can get over there on FlightAware. It's called Airborne Qasem Air, okay? The reason I am starting to watch these flights because they are Iranian in nature, but they have U.S. agency backing. So they are operated, I guess, and funded by the United States, and they are tied to the Iranian Guard or whatever. So the Quds, I think it is. So it's just a data point for you, but I'm watching these flights because just something I think we ought to keep our eye on because I stumbled across that piece, all right? All right. Well, listen, that right there is going to do it for our SITREP today. I hope you have a blessed and fantastic rest of your day. We'll see you in the Q&A here, live Q&A in just a minute for those over on Patreon. And then, of course, over the weekend on Patreon, we still have our Under the Radar and our Monkey Minutes. So that's it. You guys be safe out there. Keep that powder dry. Stay frosty. We'll talk soon. God bless. Monkey out.